Fans of a Horus Heresy, thank you very much for joining me for a video where we are going to investigate how much of a resin model by Forge World is the actual kit itself and how much additional material is required in the production, and think about the consequences of what this might mean. This is an idea that was posed by one of you guys and girls in the comment section of one of my videos maybe a month, 2 months ago, and I do apologise to who originally suggested the idea because I can't remember. But whoever it was, thank you very much. One of the things that comes up as a, shall we say, common question around the pricing of Forge World models is their domestic and international shipping costs. And basically it goes something like this: anything under £250 you have to pay 12% for UK delivery and 15% for international delivery. So that's the first little factoid we have. The second thing is Forge World ships all of its models with the gates or keys, the casting gates, still attached, whereas a lot of other manufacturers of large resin kits remove these prior to shipping. Hence it makes for a lighter weight model from a point of view of shipping, and it also makes for a smaller model because you don't have big keys and gates on them. So what we're going to do is just a little experiment here, shall we say, to understand the weight percentage of a Forge World kit in terms of the gates versus a final model. And for this we're going to use the splendid looking Orion Dropship. Immediately the sharp-eyed amongst you will have spotted the obvious flaw in my choice of model here. The Orion Dropship will always get free international and domestic shipping because it costs £275. It's above that £250 threshold. However, it's a kit that I've saved the parts upon. Because it's such a big kit with so many components, I think it might actually be a bit more representative of the average, because if you take a very small kit, it could have a disproportionately large amount of weight in the keys, or a kit that doesn't have many parts will also be affected. Something like, say, the Triaros armoured conveyor doesn't have that many components for its weight or size of kit, so there's less key material, whereas a kit with a lot of components might have proportionately more weight. So one that I've got, and I've saved all the material, so we're going to do it. What do we need? Well, we have a set of scales, or a balance. This is a reasonably accurate kitchen scale. It's Mrs. Leakycheese's, so I've borrowed it. We've got the Orion model there, and then the key bit is I've got this bag of gates that I saved from building the Orion, and all of the gates are in here. So we've got that. It's been a while since we've had some quality graphics on this channel, so let me take you through it. The first thing we're going to do is weigh the Orion itself. We're then going to measure the weight of the gates and keys, which will give us a total resin weight, and then we'll be able to calculate the percentage of the total weight that the finished model represents compared to the actual gates. So nice and simple. And once I've got these measurements, I'm just going to have a little think over what it might actually mean in terms of what it tells us about Forge World shipping costs, if anything. So let's weigh the Orion. We've put that on the scales and zeroed the scales with the weight of the base on it. And if we take it off, we will find that that is 47 grams. Now I'm going to put the Orion on the base, put it on the scale, and then we'll just let it settle. There we go. And the zoom in there shows that the weight of the Orion is 1,375 grams. So apologies all you people stateside who may still work on the Imperial system, but I'm just going to do it in grams because it's what I generally use day to day. So there we go, 1,375. Excuse my scrawly handwriting. Okay, so now we can take the Orion away and weigh the keys. So I'm going to weigh the keys in this large bowl. So I've switched the scale off. I'm going to switch it on so we get the weight of the bowl zeroed. So you can see there we've got 0. And if we take the bowl away, we can see that that weighed 458 grams. Okay, so we now got the resin gates. So this is all of the gates from the models. I've kept everything. There's a bit of weight loss here, both in terms of material that was reduced to a powder or fine shards by removing the kit from the gates, and also material that I sanded away from the final model. There is going to be a few grams lost in this calculation, but I think against the overall weight of the model, which is 1.4 kilos, not too significant. That's another advantage of doing this really large model. It reduces the scale of the material loss proportionate to the overall weight. Right, so let's weigh it. I'm even being super scientific and not weighing the bag. Whoops, an escapee. And with the zoom in, we can see the weight of the gates and the keys is 465 grams. So I'm now going to add those two together to give the total weight. The total weight of the model, including the gates and the keys, is 1,840 grams. So the percentage of the resin weight that goes into the finished model is 74.7%. I'm just going to round that up to 75%. I think making that little rounding helps us with an easy figure. So in terms of the resin actually required to make this model, 75% of it ends up in the finished kit, this chap here. 25% of it is in effect waste, and let's just note that down. Okay, well that's a fascinating number. So we've actually come out with a nice, easy to work with figure there. 3/4 of the weight becomes your model, 1/4 of the weight becomes the gates, or the waste. So what does that mean, if anything? I suppose the first thing is, well, does this affect the cost? Well, in terms of the actual cost of the model, probably not. The other examples I've seen of models being cast with keys attached, the size of Forge World's keys don't seem particularly disproportionate to the size of the parts being cast. So maybe one of you viewers know better than me and can correct me there, but as far as I can tell, the general size of the keys that Forge will produce are not outside of industry, shall we say, norm. I don't think there's anything particularly of significance there. What is interesting is the fact that Forge will always ship with the gates attached, whereas a lot of other manufacturers, and examples that spring to mind where I've seen examples will be Warlord Games and Victoria Miniatures, they remove their gates, and that allows them to pack into smaller boxes. So clearly there are some cost implications of shipping with the gates, and an obvious one is packaging cost. You know, that's a straight inefficiency on any operation, and by shipping models with gates attached, Forge World is doing so in a less efficient manner than if you remove them, just because of the box size. It doesn't matter what deal they've got done, you know, they're still incurring cost by buying bigger cardboard boxes. Cardboard shipping boxes are actually quite expensive. You know, it's surprising how much they cost. Obviously, if you buy in bulk, as they will do, you'll get a big discount, but it's a cost. And then you've got all the plastic bags, all the bubble wrap, and then the actual Forge World box itself, because Forge World are now shipping a lot of models in the white outer box. So does it affect the Forge World shipping cost by shipping with gates attached? And indeed, any business? Well, I would say it will in certain cases. I would say this depends on the deal that Forge World has done with their mail provider for shipping. One of the constraints of shipping is weight, the other is bulk. So if there's some sort of weight or size threshold in Forge World's shipping deal with their mail provider, shipping kits with attached gates could be impacting the cost to the customer. Let's just imagine that there is a price threshold for 2 kilos. So let's say anything below a certain size and 2 kilos is a small parcel. Anything above it is a large parcel. There are going to be kits that would sit around that price band that in theory are going to be pushed into a higher cost band because of the fact they're shipping with the gates and keys attached, either through pushing it over a weight threshold or a size threshold. Don't know what that is. I mean, that would be commercially sensitive information that only Forge World knows, or Games Workshop knows, whichever way you want to put it. But what does interest me is the fact that other, or certainly a number of other manufacturers of large resin kits do remove these gates before box and ship their product, allowing them to put them in smaller boxes at a lighter weight. So that says to me, certainly at a smaller size of operation, there is a cost benefit of doing that. So why might Forge World be doing it, shipping these with these gates or keys attached? Well, it could be that they've assessed this and found it's economically cheaper to have bigger, heavier shipping units to the customer than it costs in labour to efficiently remove these keys without damaging models. So that's one possibility. The second could be almost like a reciprocal reward between them and the customer for ordering £250 or more. Anything at that size, the efficiency of fulfilling a single order in terms of picking, packing, dispatching it is offset by the higher price. So maybe that's playing a role, that they offer free shipping on orders over £250. That's another possibility. The other thing that's odd with Forge World orders is the fact that the percentage for shipping is constant between 0 and £250. Now clearly that's not realistically what actually is happening. It looks to me like they've made a decision to spread the cost evenly for all orders of a smaller size across those customer base as a percentage of a product value, as opposed to having a more complex tiered system of postage costs. I wouldn't say Forge World seems to be that different to a lot of people in the industry. A lot of manufacturers of resin miniatures and other wargaming miniatures, they have a fixed postage cost up to price X, and then beyond that it's free postage and packaging. Again, it doesn't seem to be out of the ordinary what they're doing. And the other question you would say is the 12% levy or 15% international justified in all cases? Do you always get value for money? Well, I would probably say on bigger items. So let's take an Imperial Knight kit, which costs, let's say about £175. You're paying 17, 18, about £20 postage and packaging, which is way beyond what it actually costs to ship those. That's probably double, if not more, the real cost of shipping those items. So they could be kind of reducing the cost for smaller orders to make them more attractive and levying that cost onto the higher orders to get an overall balance. Alternatively, they might be using the postage and packaging as a way of financing orders that have mistakes. So in other words, lots of small orders and kits are more likely to create an error, either in terms of the kit production or the packing and dispatch, than a larger order or a single larger kit. It's my view, based on the quantitative analysis I've done of my buying experience, that Forge will do dispatch a lot of parts with faults on them. So that, in my mind, translates to a lot of requests from customers to fix orders. That might be playing a role as well. I think that's everything. I mean, I kind of feel I've given lots of maybes and what ifs there, and to be honest, I'm not certain, and I don't have a definitive answer myself on this at the moment. And that, I guess, is part of the reason I decided to make this video. And that's because I get a lot of comments from people saying that Forge World shipping costs are high at 12 or 15%. And I wanted to try to objectively think it through to assess whether or not that statement or perhaps sentiment is accurate or not. I guess one final thought is about the threshold of the order side. So free orders with Forge World, you have to spend £250. That's far higher than Games Workshop charge, which is 50 quid, I think, if I remember rightly, and much higher, much higher than their competitors charge as well. Again, that might make me lean towards thinking they're using the postage cost on these smaller orders to pay for some part of their process. Interesting thought, hey, don't you think? Anyway, so that's a lot of thoughts from me on what is maybe a little bit of a sensitive subject. I would really like to hear what you think. If anyone who's got any experience of working in a sort of system like this, or knows anything about it, and does have some professional experience to share, to try figure out an answer on this, I would certainly be very interested to hear. I think that wraps it up then. I hope you found that an interesting and thought-provoking video. But other than that, I would just like to say thank you very much for watching. Speak to you next time, and goodbye.